Welcome to Oromo Affairs. This is Ace Drew, your host, as you already know. And today, my special guest is Matt Birk, the Republican nominee, the Lieutenant Governor, the next Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, with Dr. Jensen being the governor. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ace.
For sure. We're just gonna start off with this quick video at the Vikings game that you guys played out, and we will
Right.
start off with that. Yeah, let's take this video. Wow, I got a little bit.
We need a teammate, a champion who loves our state as much as we do.
I'm Matt Birk, and I am joining Dr. Scott Jensen as his lieutenant governor.
We're going to fight for students over broken institutions and empower parents to make the best decisions for their kids. We'll make our state safe again.
That's what Scott and I are fighting for.
We're going to lead Minnesota's comeback. Who do you want to have the ball?
I don't know, who do I want? I want Matt and Dr. Johnson to lead Minnesota next.
Just so you know, Ace, I did all my own stunts in that video. That really was me. Wasn't a stunt double.
For sure. You've been playing with the Vikings for a while. Can you just tell us about yourself a little bit and how it is the athletic professional life and the professional political life? Can you tell me about the two quickly before we get into our
Man.
main topic tonight?
Yeah. I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota. Found my way to Harvard University. Played football there. Didn't think I'd ever play in the NFL, but I did. Played 11 years for the Vikings, 4 years for the Baltimore Ravens. Won a Super Bowl in 2012, which was my last year in the NFL. And went and worked in the NFL league office, started a few businesses, but became really concerned about our state a few years ago and our country. Met this guy, Scott Jensen, who was he's a heck of a guy, as your viewers know. You had him on, and very courageous, very smart. He's a leader, and I saw when he first announced that he was going to run for governor, his campaign, he was getting a lot of people excited and involved in his campaign that had never been involved in politics before. And that's what it's going to take, because I think what we're seeing in America is big government trying to run people's lives. And, we're not here as people to serve the government. The government's supposed to serve us. And so when Scott asked me to be his lieutenant governor, I had to think about it a little bit, because I'd never been involved in politics. For people say politics is so hard, Ace. So I was like, well, I was a football player. Playing football is pretty hard. But ran alongside him, and happy to report that politics is way easier than playing football. I have yet to wake up being sore from campaigning, but in football, you wake up sore every single day.
For sure. I'm glad you touched on that big government part, because I'm in America because of big government in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So we ran away from a big government who wants to control all aspects of our life.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ethiopian government literally farms like majority of all the farmlands in Ethiopia, and he takes that food away from the people, and they sell it to Saudi Arabia, India. These are basically looting. They're looting the population, and we come from that. We come from that poverty, from that oppression. So when we come to America too, from my study, it's the government, it's the big government that exercise racism, or whatever they exercise always came through the government. So the bigger the government is the problem to my studies and my understanding.
Yeah, I would agree.
But when we come to America, we get fooled, kind of. Big government is better for you. We're gonna give you everything free. Are things ever gonna be free, Matt? Are the Democrats ever gonna give us stuff for free?
Well, somebody's paying for it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I meet a lot of people who, just like you said, they came to America to escape socialism. And they're kind of perplexed at kind of the current state of affairs in America. The ones that are paying attention are saying, why do Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Tim Walz, why do they want to turn America into a socialist country? That's what I left. That's what I left behind. That doesn't work. They know that. I mean, some of our most patriotic citizens in the United States weren't born here. They appreciate it more than a lot of us who were born here, who I think Americans, quite frankly, most of us take America and take the freedoms for granted. And, it doesn't matter just because, how America came about, its creation story. There's a saying that says absolute power corrupts absolutely. And, when the government doesn't, they want to control every aspect of your life. They want to tell you, they want to control the information, which is extremely dangerous. The government basically owns the mainstream media and dictates what they report on and how they report on it. It's scary. It's scary. I think it's a very pivotal time in our country, and it's not just Democrat. There's Republicans too. Politics is kind of a broken institution, if you will.
Oh yeah.
What we need to see are non-politicians running for office, like Scott Jensen, myself, lots of people running for state representative and state senators, and then the school board and city council. People who've never run for anything before in their lives, but they finally said, I can't afford not to do something and get involved. And I think that's great.
That's really what excites me about you and Dr. Jensen, because you guys are not career politicians.
No,
you guys are going to be in. You guys are going to make a difference. If you guys don't make a difference, you guys are not going to sit there and play bureaucracy with us. You guys just going to leave the office.
Get in, we'll get out.
Get in and get out. Make a difference and get out. So
that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it was designed. We're not never supposed to have career politicians. It's supposed to have citizen representatives come in for a term or two and leave. But these folks, they said they get in, and I guess it's a pretty good gig for them.
So minorities here. Why should minorities vote for Matt and Dr. Jensen?
Well, from what I hear when I go to certain communities, they want public safety is a big thing. These people that don't feel safe walking down the street or having their kids play outside.
We already came from an unsafe place, so that's a plus. Please do make us safe.
And I think it's accurate to say that Tim Walz and the Democrats created this culture of lawlessness, to defund the police, the riots, all that stuff. And part of the solution to getting us back to being safer, part of it is more cops on the street.
Right.
And there's a bunch of cops quit, and there's no cops coming as long as Tim Walz is in office, because he did not stand with and support the police during the riots.
Right.
And that's just a fact. He can't fix the crime problem.
Right.
Another reason is, in America, one of the great things is it's a land of opportunity. And in order to take advantage of the opportunities, you have to be educated. Our school system, very broken. Public school system. And again, Tim Walz, Peggy Flanagan, they can't fix that. They are basically owned by Education Minnesota. Education Minnesota is one of the biggest donors to their campaign. So they love to control. Again, it's about control. Follow the money. Control the school system. They don't want to. They would say, your kids live in this zip code, you got to go to this school. Scott Jensen and I say, baloney. All the taxpayers pay into the school system. That kid should be able to go to any school they want. Any school they want. The money follows the child. It doesn't just go to the school down the street. To me, if you want to talk about social justice, I think school choice is where social justice starts.
Right.
And then, listen, this economy, the inflation, I would imagine. I listen. The things I'm talking about is not just for African American communities or Latino. These are all communities. They want to be safe. They want
Right.
better schools, and they'd love to have a little more money in their pockets.
It's the general good of all the public.
Yeah, and you know what? And you kind of said it. You referenced it at the beginning, saying that it's the white people don't oppress black people. It's the government that oppresses, and it's the government that I think is
Right.
pushing a lot of this narrative.
For sure.
And I mean, and that's, I mean, I think I look at it as these are just things that every single person wants. I don't care if you're black, white, brown, whatever.
Right.
And I think that those are the things that the government, on a very basic level, should be doing for its citizens. Keep your citizens safe.
For sure.
Educate them. It's better for the individual and it's better for the country as a whole, the more educated we are. And then, let them earn a living. And you know what? Instead of oppressive taxes, let them keep more money, spend it, create more economic activity. So it works. Democrats, again, think you could just keep taxing, and they want us to all be driving electric cars, which isn't going to work out in the real near future.
Right. Well, the electric part has its own, complex stories about the battery, because we don't know what to do with the battery.
The battery, the charging stations, they just want, again, who's going to pay for that? It's going to be, it's a huge price tag on that. It's going to be us.
Very unfortunately. So when it comes to school, the Republicans always have better policy on the school, but the Democrats come on top of it and saying everything free on top of that. And then the childcare is going to be free. The daycare is going to be free. And how come they never achieve it? I mean, the governor is a Democrat, the attorney general is a Democrat, almost the entire city council in St. Paul is a Democrat, the mayor is a Democrat. I mean, everybody in Minneapolis school district is a Democrat from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So why is that district the worst school district in the state?
Hey, that's a great question. If we could debate Tim Walz and Peggy Flanagan, we'd ask them that, but they don't want to debate because they're scared, because they're politicians and they know that they really can't run or answer on their record. And so, again, I'm new to politics. I'm not a career politician. I don't want to be, but I've spent a lot of time, in different communities in the city, and they take me around and they talk to me, and I say, okay, so let me ask you a question. I say, one thing I ask them, I always say, so what about racism? I haven't heard you say anything about racism. And they all just kind of laugh. They're like, there's no racism here. Like, we're just trying to survive, man. Like, there's no racism. There's white people here too. There's Mexican people. Like, we're just struggling together. And then the second thing I says, okay, well, it's been bad here for a long time. I said, why do you guys keep voting Democrat?
Right.
And they say, you know what? At least the Democrats come around once every 4 years and they lie to us, but we think, well, maybe they're telling the truth this time. But they come around. They said, you guys, meaning Republicans,
right,
stopped coming around here 30 years ago. And I said, well, shame on the Republicans. Maybe they thought, well, it's a lost cause. The Democrats are just going to try to give them things and prompt. But shame on that.
It is a big one. It disturbed me a lot.
And that's part of where politics is broken, because I mean, Scott Jensen and I are all over the state talking to people because we really do. I want to listen. I want to learn. I mean, I got a lot to learn. Want to see what's important, because if you're elected, your job is to represent the interests of the common good of your people, of the people of Minnesota. It's not so that I can go and drive my agenda down people's throats.
Right.
So, shame on Republicans for just giving up on getting votes there. Even if you didn't think you're going to get votes, you should still.
I'm really glad you point that out, because I didn't know how to cover this part, because the Democratic Party and their candidates are at our soccer tournaments. They are at our mosque, our churches. They're constantly here and saying, you can bring your relatives from Africa with no borders in front of you if you vote for us.
Free.
Everything free. Nobody's going to get deported. You can just ship the entire continent of America. That's how they ship the entire continent of Africa to America. That's how they They sell it to us, how open they are. And at the same time, we can't get no daycare. We can't get no kids into preschool. Like the school with the smallest waiting list has 14 kids waiting. That's the smallest. Like the average waiting list in the St. Paul Public School is like 21.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it. Why don't they just add one more classroom to each of these schools and not have all these kids on a waiting list?
Listen, Ace, most people have to go out and hustle and earn a living.
Right.
A lot of these career politicians, both sides, but I'll single out Democrats. They couldn't run a lemonade stand because they
Right.
never had to. And so, we're going to do all these programs and this, that. Well, not only do the programs, are they not executed properly, they don't work. But number two, and if you read the papers or the news, the amount of waste and fraud
Right.
of taxpayers' money that just goes up in smoke.
For sure.
The Feeding Our Future, we're supposed to be feeding kids during COVID, hundreds of millions of dollars gone. There was a housing scandal last week or the week before, $130 million gone.
Right.
Daycare scandal. I mean, you could go on and on and on.
Yep.
But it sounds really good when you're trying to get elected to talk about millions of dollars and free. Or we call it free 99. Cost you free 99. Just keep giving you stuff. That sounds really great. And then if they do get a program for it, it's just very poorly executed. Cost taxpayers, waste a lot of taxpayer money. And then and then God forbid we never cut programs. We just keep adding more and more programs. And so, you just increase the budget next year and just waste more money. And it's like this big Gordian knot. If you know that story of the Gordian knot, you can't untangle it. You just got to take a sword and you got to cut it and you got to start over.
Man, non-career politicians do give us hope, man. We know that the established Republicans were never gonna solve the crime. Established Republicans like to leave the crime there and say,
"Oh yeah,
next election cycle, they say, I'm gonna solve that crime. Vote for me again." The Democrats do the same thing with poverty. They were never gonna get these homeless people off the street. The Democrats will never make people independent. They're just gonna say, "Look at that poverty. Vote for me next cycle. I'm gonna get rid of that poverty." You vote for them when the election comes, and they kick the can down the road for the next election and say, "I'm gonna solve the poverty in the next election," and then in the next election. And the Republicans would love the same thing. They'll do the same thing when it comes to the crime, and say, kicking can down the road and saying, "I'll solve that crime with the next election." But non-career politicians like you and Dr. Jensen, just for even the legacy and the history that you guys are here to make, you guys are get in, get it done, and get out.
Well, I hope so. I mean, it's ridiculous when you see these Republicans and Democrats who vote 100% of the time with, whether it's Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell. Right. How can you agree 100% of the time with that's impossible, Right. And I think, listen, you can say if you got to pick a side, I'm on Team Democrat or Team Republican, but there just comes a point, especially if we're talking about things like poverty. If we're talking about things like education, right? If we're talking about things like safety, you know what? Maybe sometimes you just have to do the right thing, and maybe circumstances present themselves sometimes, and it's not popular with your party, but you still got to do the right thing. And they don't even do that. They close the ranks. They never, they always just stick with the herd no matter what. And what ends up, and then they try to get reelected, and the people that end up suffering are the people, and it's not right.
For sure. So the Democrats are gonna kick the can down the road, and established Republican politicians will also kick the can down the road. So what is you and Dr. Scott gonna do, particularly just on the education and the crime, to solve the crime part? The crime, I think, is the Republicans that failed on the crime side. When it comes to education and the poverty, is the Democrats that failed to that side.
Yeah. So Scott and I put out some 10-point plans on a lot of things, and education and public safety are definitely two of them. I think the biggest thing for education is school choice. meaning
Sure.
we spend billions of dollars on education, and it goes to the schools. And the whole point of the public school system is not to have a public school system. The whole point is to educate people. So and half of our kids can't read, 70% of Black and Hispanic kids can't read or do math at grade level. So that means it's not working, the public school system. So now, when a child goes to the public school, that public school receives funding. Now, under Scott Jensen, what we want to implement is that child can go to any school, public school. If you like your public school, stay there. Private school, Christian school, Muslim, whatever, any school you want. And the money designated for that child follows them to that school. So now you can essentially go to any school you want. Essentially any school you want in the state of Minnesota. I think that's the big thing with education. I think as far as public safety goes, like I said, police are going to play a very important role in public safety. They are there to enforce the laws we have. Right now, we are not able to enforce a lot of the laws we have. Right. Because we just don't have enough police. And like I said, there will never be enough police as long as Tim Walz is governor, because you put your life on the line. Police officers, unfortunately, die in the line of duty. You're not going to do that if the governor's not going to stand with you. Right. Scott Jensen and I will be the biggest champion for police, the biggest champion. And I know you will see an influx of new police officers if we are elected. I think that's number one. Number two, the second thing is we need, when violent repeat offenders come into court, we need to incarcerate them. Minnesota has the third lowest incarceration rate in the country. And talking to law enforcement leaders, they say there's about 500 people. It's about 500 people that commit 75% of the crimes. If we took those 500 people off the streets and actually, and sentence them like we're supposed to. It's not like we don't have judges, these liberal judges. They don't follow sentencing guidelines. For sure. 10 years, they say, 6 months house arrest. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. If we got those violent repeat serial offenders off the streets, we'd see a dramatic drop in crime. Sure. And like I said, if we're not safe, we're not free. And right now we're letting the bad guys win in Minnesota. I don't know why we do that.
For sure. On more police, we definitely need police. We cannot have a society without a police. No. Everybody's on board on that one. We just need a governor who can actually make it happen. Yeah. And when it comes to putting away the bad guys, 100%. The whole society, I believe, would agree on that one. But the part where the Republican Party gets challenged is the accountability with the bad cops.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I don't know why. I don't think anybody's saying, for bad police. I mean, we want good policing. We definitely want good policing. Right. I think you need to understand that being a police officer is very hard, especially in today's day and age. Knowing that everything you do is, videoed and you might not be perfect, but we also can't create an environment where police are second guessing themselves, because a lot of times it is life or death, either for them or for victims out there. So yes, I mean, absolutely, and I think, and from what I've heard from police officers and leaders, is right now it's a very tough environment to be a police officer. But we're also, because we're so understaffed all over the place, we're asking police officers to do a lot of other things too. Where their sole job should just be to enforce the laws. But right now they're having to support, whether it be paramedics, 911 calls, we have police going all over the place. They're stretched so thin. And then the other crisis that we have that we need to figure out, and we're not going to solve it here tonight, but mental health. Right. A lot of calls the police come up to are due to mental health. Right. And police do receive some training, but they're certainly not experts. For sure. There are very few experts on how to deal with someone who is mentally unstable, who you don't know what their diagnosis is, right? 100%. So lots and variables. But yes, absolutely. We want good policing, because at the end of the day, we want everybody in the community to look at the police and say, they are here for us. They're
Right.
protecting me and my family. And we want the citizens to support the police so the police can do their job and best
100%.
protect the citizens.
Right. And it's also the difficult part with the police is the number of bad police is like is so small that when that one bad do something and it's just devastating to the whole society. But when it comes
we
to
saw that.
when it comes to the education part, with the police, just make sure the Republican Party and with the accountability, they just make sure they come clear with the accountability on the police. I think that's where the community challenges. That's the only spot I think where the community challenge is, because we
Accountability.
cannot have a society without a police. And also, if we have a dirty police in there, society's going to be scared.
Well, and you know what? I think what we saw going on in St. Paul and Minneapolis, Chief Todd Axtell in St. Paul and Chief Arredondo in Minneapolis, top-notch leaders, top-notch police officers, transparency, accountability. They
Right.
never ran and hid, but they didn't have the support from their mayors. They didn't have the support from their city councils. They didn't have the support from the governor.
Right.
And, they'd be the first to tell you anytime an officer screwed up.
For sure.
But the politicians would run out and make that example and try to push the defund the police movement
Right.
or blame it on, racism or whatever, versus like, hey, we're all supposed to be here working together to protect people. And I think my opinion is you lost two great police chiefs, retired before they wanted to or before they really had to. They still had some good years left in them, but they were just tired of the politics.
Right, for sure. And with education too, I believe the Republican Party got the best education plan, because not all kids are going to be the same, right? Some kids are going to be, great in the sports like Matt Birk and LeBron James. Some of them want to be education focused. So families should have options to move their kids where they wanted to take them to more excellent education program. They can take them there. They want to move them to more excellent athletic programs. They can move them there. They want to smaller school. They can move. They want their kids to grow up in a bigger school. So later on, they can move to New York City and navigate New York City. They can get their little practice here at a bigger elementary school. These are all options the families could have under the Republican Party. But why do you think liberals like LeBron James, they compete, man? They slaughter everybody with their profession. They will dunk on somebody. They will destroy that person's career, make him exit the NBA, so they can posterize him and make more money. It's competition, right? How come they get to compete? And as soon as he gets off his competition throne, the basketball court, he tells people not to compete.
I think there could be two reasons there. One, it feels really good to just be a liberal, right? Makes you feel good.
You can just order stuff like you're in the restaurant, right? As you wish.
Yeah. The second thing, I mean, athletes, celebrities, they're all brands these days,
right?
Huge brands. And, you'll never get any backlash from corporate America for being a liberal. You will for being a conservative.
For sure.
And so I think a lot of those guys, especially when you're talking about the mega stars, I think they sort of see themselves as like a corporation.
Right.
And so the whole goal is just never enough money, never enough endorsements. And, and so it's just easy to be that. And I mean, I'm not saying, maybe they aren't, who knows? They've grown up in this world where, they've been indoctrinated. So maybe they really do believe that, or maybe it's just a strategic business move. I don't know, but that certainly seems like that's kind of the way it goes. They want to do the virtue signaling on Twitter and make sure when something happens, they're just really, really outraged, because that's what people on Twitter do.
For sure. It's just that, when people are independent, they just don't feel good, the liberals, like they want people to be dependent on them. And I just don't understand that, why they want us to be dependent on them.
Yeah. I think there's something in human beings that I guess being taken care of, like, yeah, you kind of want that maybe, but I don't know. I think what you're seeing now with the younger generations, I think they know that they're not prepared for the real world. I think they've been coddled.
For sure.
I think they're, the products of the 4 years university, they're not preparing kids for life.
For sure.
I mean, let's face it, we're a very wealthy country. We live very comfortably here. We don't have the grit, a lot of us, or the work ethic. And I think deep down, these kids, they know. Geez, they're scared of going out there. They don't know if they got what it takes to go make it.
Right.
And so it's just easier to talk about, saving everybody and having the, living in a socialist society where everybody's taken care of, and we don't have to, like you said, don't have to compete. Don't really have to struggle. Although we know in a socialist country, you end up struggling pretty mightily at the end.
For sure. How much do you love the Second Amendment?
I tell you what I've seen the last few years. I'm really glad that the Second Amendment is around, because we saw sort of this soft tyranny of our government trying to tell us where we can and can't go, what we can and can't do. And it's like, wow, if we're gonna do that, then we might not be as free as we thought.
It almost turned into Ethiopia.
Yeah, well, I'd take your word for it, but it's pretty. Yeah, like I said, I think Americans, there really needs to be an awakening in this country, and I think immigrants are a great kind of the canaries in the coal mines, because so many of them are so passionate about this idea of America. For sure. And they really do appreciate this freedom. Freedom's when you throw it out as a politician or something, you kind of really doesn't really have any meaning. But when you think about being free, right, like that speaks to our souls as human beings. Like that's what we're made to be free. That's when we're like who we're supposed to be. And so I think the immigrant communities are great ones to remind Americans about, that freedom doesn't just happen. That we're very fortunate and blessed here. But we also need to be careful. I think you need to educate people. What's it like in Ethiopia? What's it like?
It's horrible, man. I can't tell you how bad. Only the government officials and the government folks in the military has the guns, man. Nobody allowed to if you're Oromo. Only Oromos are not allowed.
Isn't that crazy?
We're the majority. We're the second biggest population in Africa. And they make sure that the Oromo population doesn't see the gun, doesn't get the right to bear arms, the right to self-defense. They make sure we don't get that. We don't see the government. 60 million of us, 20 million is in a starvation now. Every 30 years, they put us in a starvation.
Wow.
So that way you submit, a child is born, it takes him 30 years, needs to pass age 30 to become a man and fight for his country and trying to be a stand-up man. So they gotta kill his hope, kill his spirit. So every 30 years, they renew Oromo prosecution. And we can't defend it because we don't have guns.
Unbelievable.
And folks like Ilhan Omar supposedly represent us now. As a Democrat, as a Muslim woman, as a Black woman, the Democrats have categorized her like that. And she supposedly represents the Oromo people too. She has zero interest of the Oromo people because she doesn't even have interest of the Somali people. Why? She got kicked out of Somalia because she doesn't have right to bear arms. She doesn't have right to defend herself. She has no right to owning a gun. And now she comes to America and she says American citizens don't need that. Let the government whip them like I got whipped in Somalia.
That's what I was talking about, how these people they don't do what's right. They just do what their party says to do.
Exactly.
The Democratic Party. Because a lot of people don't, they live in the suburbs, nice suburbs, and they don't think guns are necessary, right? They're going to the country club and they just I would never need a gun. So that sounds good. And this is just what this is where I sort of shake my head. They want stricter gun laws. Somebody who goes and commits one of these heinous acts of violence, they don't care about your laws.
Right,
right?
exactly.
They're not. It's illegal to kill people anyway. So it's not.
Exactly.
They're breaking the laws. They don't care. And then the people, there's 600 million guns in America, right? So if you think you're going to pull guns, you just have to be realistic.
Right.
We've got a war on drugs too that we're losing very badly. You can make all the laws you want, but if you can't enforce them, it doesn't matter.
100%.
So
100%. That is why the issue of Second Amendment is really it's a really, really important issue. I think that's why during, when Trump was running, I was making some good videos, and some of my videos got taken down on the Second Amendment because a lot of community members loved it. And then I would get some of the liberals. Is this true? So the liberals would whistle to my ear. They would write me comments and say, "Hey, Ace, you're in the wrong team. You're playing for the wrong team. The Second Amendment is made for white people. It's not for black people." What did you say to that?
well, and put it this
Then
way.
that's psychology on it. It's
Do you
psychological effect that they're trying to throw in our brains.
Well, I mean, it's not just to protect us against a tyrannical government. Do you think the police are doing a good job of protecting you in your communities right now? Obviously not. We don't have enough cops. So, don't you think that citizens should have the right to bear arms to protect themselves and their families through against a criminal and someone trying to break into their house or break into their car? I would say so.
Exactly.
Bad guys got guns.
Right. The police, by the time the police come, the bad guy has done all the damages.
Yeah.
Just like the many mass shootings that we see.
And again, this is one of those things. What are we talking about? Race, I mean,
Right.
Black people, white people, we all want to be safe. We want good schools. We want to have a little more money in our pocket. I don't care where you live. I don't care what color skin you are. I mean, I guess the thing about me where I'm, people look at me, you're a white guy, you're privileged. Well, I didn't grow up privileged. I grew up privileged because I had two parents who worked their butts off.
For sure.
Who were married and worked hard. My dad delivered newspapers.
Sure.
But it's always, and I get it. I'll hear it from people. You're a white guy. You don't know. Have you ever watched NFL football? Do you know that 2/3 or 3/4 of the guys are black?
100%. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? 15 years in the NFL, going to work every day, never had one meeting about race,
right,
or sensitivity training, or diversity, equity, or inclusion. And in 15 years, how many times race was an issue inside a locker room? Zero.
Exactly.
Zero. It's this thing that some people want to make a big deal, and that's how they divide us. Divide them up by race. Divide them up by sexuality. Divide them up by Republican, whatever. Just keep dividing people up.
100%.
And
it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, that's what's kind of killing our
people country. Should be just left alone, because if me and Matt like each other, we're gonna do business together. We're gonna work together. If we don't like each other, there is 8 billion people around the world, and I just work with the next guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've read the same thing too. They say, like, if a company, or what you say, company A is racist. If in company A, the point is to make money.
Right.
They'll make less money than company B.
Exactly.
Because, less people to work with, less people to partner with, less potential customers. It's
exactly.
Like, the free market. The free market normally does a good job of working itself out.
You and Dr. Jensen, you guys are not gonna waste our time trying to legislate love. Are you guys the Democrats always be legislating love?
Oh, legislating love.
Yeah, they legislate love. Yeah.
Well, now you can love or hate whoever you want. That's America. Legislate love.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Well, they try to. The other tactic of the left is to say you're a racist or a fascist or a homophobe. They accuse you of what I call thought crimes. Thought crimes, like you're a racist. It's like, okay, so what do a lot of people do? That makes them nervous, and they start to they start to, I'm not a racist, and then they kind of bend the knee to whatever you want them
Right.
to do. These thought crimes are
I always wonder
hilarious.
why they made these category laws, like like black people get a special law, and gay people get a special law, immigrants get a special law, um, Caucasians get a special law. Now, if somebody murders somebody, don't we just give him the same, ruling? Like, let's just say a black guy got murdered, or a gay guy got murdered, or a white guy got murdered. If the ruling is death penalty for the person, why do we have to give him two death penalty? Like, you can't really kill a person twice,
Yeah.
right? Like, if somebody did a crime against a gay person, why don't we just punish him the way we just punish the criminal for if he committed a crime against a black person or a white person?
Yeah. No,
Isn't the
I mean,
punishment equal? Like, what's the point of like saying, we're gonna, put this guy in jail 2 times, but they're actually gonna just do it 1 time anyway?
yeah. Two life sentences.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It's the way that they try to divide us. It's the way
I
that
think that's what it is.
that some people, they've been conditioned where like race is everything or sexual orientation is everything. Like that's the number one thing about somebody. But I really think that most people don't buy into that. I mean, that's what you kind of hear about. That's how the media talks. But I think most people at the end of the day, just trying to take care of their families, go to work, and they don't care what color somebody's skin is or who they sleep with.
Yeah,
Most people just trying to get along. And you're a good person. You're a nice person. I think that gets returned to you by most people. They don't see someone just by their skin color or whatever.
for sure, for sure. Well, we're toward the end, and as the Oromo people, what's good for the general public of the American public is good for us. And the only thing that differentiate or makes the Oromo people different in America is that we are going under heavy prosecution in Ethiopia. Being the majority, we are being like constantly ruled by the minorities. And that's how we got a lot of numbers in America. That's how we end up coming to America, escaping war. And now we're in a big war. And many Oromos we don't even call ourselves Ethiopia. We're Oromo. Our country is going to be independent. Sometime down the line, it will be independent. We believe in borders. We believe America's border. We believe we're not globalists. The more we concentrate power into one spot, the more the globe is going to become more oppressive. So if we cut all these global lines, now who's going to be the chairman of the world? Is this man going to be fair? This man is going to be established, and he's going to be placed there by a group, and that group is going to pimp the rest of us throughout the world. And we don't want that either. We are people fighting to get our human rights back, because in Ethiopia there's just 50,000 Oromo people just from political relations that are in jail. It's been like that for almost 30 years now. We consistently averaged about 50K. In 2016, we were in a heavy revolution. The protesters throughout Minnesota when they killed high-profile Oromo politicians and music artists. So all this been going on, and we want a good relationship with the governor of Minnesota, with the next governor of Minnesota, in terms of protecting asylum seekers and things related to immigrations. We don't get answers from the immigration because being the second biggest population in Africa, our number is just big. So because of the big number, we kind of get to, push back to the back. We don't get, enough attention. And if I wish you guys win, and I encourage my people to stay conservative, work hard, and vote conservative leaders, so that way they can serve themselves. And I wish you guys win. And can you just advise my people on self-defense and Second Amendments, to love Second Amendments and to fight for freedom?
Yeah, and listen, Second Amendment is very important. Second Amendment not only to defend yourself against a tyrannical government, and maybe you're not a gun person, but you want other people to have guns if you don't, to protect your community. The most effective way to fight crime is strong deterrent.
For sure.
And so when criminals think or know that people have firearms, they're not going to target those people.
100%.
So yeah, Second Amendment, very important. And kind of what you said about, you're talking about Ethiopia, Ace, I don't think the government's here to solve every person's problem. I think it's here to remove obstacles. I think it's here to not be an obstacle.
For sure.
For sure. So people can go live their lives and chase their American dream, if you will.
100%.
But it is there to be a safety net for some people, once in a while. And that's about it. And this huge government that we see from the Democrats, it's slowly killing. I think it's slowly killing our people. I don't think that's
100%.
an overstatement, because it just becomes more and more overbearing. And once again, we are not here to serve the government. The government is supposed to serve us. And we see these career politicians, and you see, once people are in power, and this is Republicans too, people in power, they create rules to keep themselves in power, right?
Exactly.
It's so hard to unseat these politicians who are career politicians or have been in office for a long time.
Right.
But I hope 2022 is the year that enough people woke up and said, we've got to do something different. And I hope the minority communities, the immigrant communities, I hope they saw it. Things don't have to be like this.
100%.
We can have awesome economic opportunity. We can have safe streets. Your kids can go to awesome schools. We can do that. It's just that the Democrats either don't want it or can't. And they've been in power in Minnesota for a long, long time. So I would implore your viewers, if you're not a conservative, I'm not saying you got to become a full-fledged conservative.
Right.
Give a more conservative candidate or candidates a chance this time and see what happens.
Especially my community, the Oromos, we are too Republicans. We are too conservative. It's great. It's just that we're stuck on the election night because the Democrats told us the Republicans are going to round you up, your families, and they're going to deport them. You're going to lose your public housing. You're going to lose any other assistance you have. But just assure my people, man, all these struggling people, they're not going to lose what they qualify for whenever the Republican is in office. They didn't lose it during Trump. They didn't lose it during any other Republicans leading, man.
I just said, I think the government is there to be a safety net for people from time to time. That's, you didn't lose it. You're not going to lose it. But I tell you what, we're going to get these other things straightened out. And then everything's going to get better. Everything comes from public safety. If your community's not safe, no business is going to go in there and invest. No business is going to go in there and hire people if it's not safe. If the people aren't educated, they're not going to go. They need people that can read and write. And these taxes, geez, we pay top five in taxes.
Right.
What do we get for it? What do we do for it? Yeah. We can do better. And Ace, I know you know that, and I know that's why you do this. And Scott and I appreciate your support, using your platform and your voice. And I assure you, Scott and I are everywhere. We're talking. No one's talked to more Minnesotans than us, from Minneapolis to International Falls, all over this state. And I'm going to tell you,
you guys are doing a great job.
People up north, they want the same thing as people who live next door to you, Ace. They want the
100%.
same things, man. Want to be safe, want better schools, want a little more money in their pocket. That's all they want. They just kind of want to be left alone. Let them make their own decisions.
For sure.
That's it. And that's regardless of where they live, regardless of their skin color, regardless of where they go to church. Man, we are a lot more alike than we are different. And God willing, Scott Jensen will get elected, and hopefully we can start showing people that.
100%. I wish you guys the best, man. I wish you guys the best. I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna continuously advocating for the East African community to vote Republicans, because we voted Democrats for too long and we got nothing back from them. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And, Scott and I, we're always out and about. I'm I'm doing things. I'm going to bars and watching Vikings games with people.
Yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
invite you and all your viewers, man. Just show me. Hey, we don't even talk politics. We just watch the Vikings. And
When is the next one in St. Paul or Minneapolis?
Monday night when the Vikings play the Eagles, we're going to be at Cowboy Jack's in Apple
It's gonna
Valley.
be packed.
Yeah, it'll be packed. But Cowboy Jack's, it'll be fun, man. Just come hang out, and if you want to ask me any questions, you can, or if you just want to watch the game, that's cool too.
For sure. I'll definitely do that. I appreciate you, Matt. Let's say bye to the audiences. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. I'll keep you guys updated too on what Matt is up to and all the victories.